Sports Future, also called SFUT, and it's part of that whole like decentralized world of the Apertum ecosystem. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I've come across it. It definitely seems to be making some waves, especially with that name Sports Future, like right there. It makes you think about what's coming next, right?
Right. Exactly. It
Yeah.
just it makes you think about like the potential and all this information you sent me. It's pretty clear that they have a really big mission, basically to empower athletes like everywhere,
Huge.
no matter their background or where they come from.
Yeah, for sure. And from everything I've read, I think what stands out most is this idea of leveling the playing field,
Yeah,
giving these athletes real chances to succeed, not just while they're, in the game, but also after their athletic careers are over. That's huge.
totally.
Yeah.
And I know you've been digging into this whole thing. So Sports Future, it exists inside this bigger Apertum ecosystem. Can you break down like what Apertum is in the first place?
So Apertum, well, it's like a digital space. You know how everything's moving online these days? Well, Apertum is built on this idea that innovation and purpose, they have to go together. They're connected. And it's designed as a decentralized platform, which basically means no one person or company controls it.
Yeah.
And different projects are kind of popping up all over it.
Gotcha. So it's like a fertile ground for new ideas.
Yeah.
And Sports Future isn't even the first one to grow there, right?
Right. There were actually three projects that got things started. They were the first ones to really like establish themselves on Apertum, and they did that using these things called smart contracts, which are basically like self-executing agreements written in code.
Okay, so we've got Rental FT, which was the first one,
Yeah.
and that one's all about like digital ownership, right? And then there's SKY, which, if I remember correctly, that's focused on decentralized AI. And then finally, we have our main topic today, Sports Future, or SFUT. So out of those three, what makes Sports Future so unique?
Well, they don't even call it a project, actually. In all the documents, it's described as a global movement specifically for athletes. And that right there suggests a really broad scope. Like they're aiming to impact the entire world of sports.
That's a bold statement. So who's behind all this? Who actually developed Sports Future?
So the material says it was created by a group called Apertum Top Leaders. They're described as an independent development group, and they really stress this commitment to building something sustainable, something with real lasting impact. They're not in it for the quick buck.
Yeah, sustainability is key,
Yeah.
especially when we're talking about these decentralized initiatives, which reminds me, Sports Future is actually built on the Apertum blockchain itself, right?
Yeah, that's right. And they give a couple of reasons for that. Mainly security and scalability. The Apertum blockchain is designed to be really secure and also able to handle a lot of transactions, which is important if they want to reach athletes all over the world. And there's another layer to this too. It's integrated with the governance system of DAO1.
DAO1, decentralized autonomous organizations. We've talked about those before,
Mhm.
but how does that actually affect Sports Future?
So basically, by connecting with DA1, it means that Sports Future is designed to be fair, give the community a real voice in how it develops. All the decisions aren't made by just a few people at the top. Instead, the power is spread out among the participants, which
Uh,
is, the whole idea behind decentralization.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So Apertum is like the overall environment, or like they call it a hub of meaningful innovation.
hmm
And within Apertum, there's this concept of a purpose-driven family. Can you unpack that a bit? What does that even mean?
It's like this. Imagine Apertum as this network where all these different projects are connected. They're all working towards their own goals, but they also share this underlying belief in doing good, having a real purpose. And SKY, the AI project we talked about earlier, that was actually the first big launch on the Apertum Decentralized Exchange, or DEX as they call it.
A DEX.
Yeah, think of it like a marketplace, but
Mhm.
for digital assets. And it operates without any central authority controlling it. So
Yeah.
SKY was the first big launch, and Sports Future was the second.
Oh, wow. So this family has gotten bigger than just those two original projects.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They mention a couple others in the material. There's one called Pug, which apparently is connected to these golden credit cards in the real world, whatever that means. And then ANOEBS, which they highlight for how fast it's grown. So yeah, it's a pretty dynamic space with all these different initiatives happening.
But even with all that going on, Sports Future is still laser focused on helping athletes in the real world. And they really hammer home this point about it being decentralized and community driven.
Yeah.
So can you break down how it actually works? Like what are the nuts and bolts, the tech side and the people side?
So this is where it all comes together, right? We've got the Apertum blockchain that provides like the secure foundation, make sure everything is transparent and can scale up. And then we've got the DAO1 governance, which ensures that the community has a voice in making decisions. But there's another really interesting piece here. They're using artificial intelligence in some key areas.
AI. Whoa, hold on. AI in sports funding. That's new.
Okay.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more. What is the AI actually doing in Sports Future?
So the way they describe it, AI is being used to support a few main things. First off, when it comes to memberships, AI helps to put together this group they call angels. And angels are basically like really dedicated supporters, people who are invested in the project's mission.
Okay, angels. Got it. What else?
Then for representatives, AI is used to try to identify and nominate people from the community who can be trusted to act as leaders and guides, kind of like steering the ship. And then lastly, for the community structure itself, AI is supposed to help make sure resources are being used well and that people are engaged, participating.
Angels and representatives.
Mhm.
It sounds like they're really going for a well-organized and active community.
Mm.
And remember that thing about the sports charity island being an inspiration?
Oh, yeah, that's right. They mentioned that as like a starting point conceptually. The idea seems to be to create this global platform where athletes can connect with the supportive community and access resources, but in a way that's totally transparent and doesn't rely on one big organization calling all the shots.
Right, right. Disintermediation. That's the word I was looking for. So one thing that pops up a lot in the material is this idea of a members community and humanity-driven environment. It seems almost like a core philosophy for them.
It totally is. They're super big on participation and shared goals, everyone working together. And they talk about how people who are already involved in DAO1 can actually bring their activities and engagement into Sports Future too. It's all about creating this win-win situation where DAO1's existing tools and features become useful for the sports community.
So how does that win-win actually play out? What are the advantages for people in the DAO1 community and then for the broader crypto world in general?
Okay, so for the DAO1 community, the benefit is being able to get involved in something with a real purpose, directly supporting athletes. It gives them a chance to go beyond just, the tech stuff and make a real difference. And for the wider crypto space, including people interested in meme coins and all that, it's a way to connect with a project that's aiming for real-world impact, beyond just financial speculation.
That's a great point. It's like bridging the gap between the digital world and real outcomes. And it seems like they also want Sports Future to act as a connector for other projects in Apertum too, right?
Yeah. Exactly. They talk about how other projects that are built on Apertum can use Sports Future to reach a global audience of athletes, coaches, sports clubs, organizations, even sporting events. It's like a bridge between the decentralized tech world and the traditional sports world.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, there's this part where they specifically call out to fundamental builders. Sounds like they're looking for a certain type of person to join.
Mm-hmm.
What's the message there?
The big message is that Sports Future isn't about getting rich quick. It's not about following trends or making a quick buck. They're looking for people who are committed to the long haul, the fundamental builders who believe in building a lasting support system for athletes.
And a key part of that is establishing this liquidity pool on the Apertum DATX. Why is that so important?
So creating a strong liquidity pool for the SFUT token, that's like step one. It's about bringing together all the people who believe in the long-term vision. A good liquidity pool helps to stabilize the value of the SFUT token and, makes it easier to trade, which ultimately supports the entire ecosystem.
Right. So they're really trying to attract the right people from the start. And they make it clear who's leading this whole thing, right?
Yeah, they reiterate that it's the Apertum Top Leaders who are at the helm and that everything they do is based on integrity and purpose. It's all about building trust, letting people know that this is a serious project with good intentions.
Makes sense. So to sum it up, why should someone listening right now consider getting involved with Sports Future? What are the big selling points?
So they lay out a few key reasons. First, sustainable growth. They really emphasize that this project is designed to last and to make a real impact in the world. Then there's the credibility of the ecosystem itself, being backed by Apertum DAO1 and projects like SKY. Then they talk about the opportunity to get in early and become a foundational stakeholder by participating in the liquidity pool. And lastly, they always come back to that long-term vision of supporting athletes' dreams through this community-driven model.
Okay, so it's about getting in on the ground floor of something with a big vision and becoming a part of something that could be really impactful. So what about the roadmap? What are their plans for the future?
They say that the roadmap is intentionally going at a measured pace. It's aligned with the development of the Apertum blockchain so that everything grows sustainably. And they're very clear that right now, this is just the beginning, the foundational work. The ultimate goal is to create something called the Sports Future Hub.
The Sports Future Hub. What will that be?
So their vision for the Sports Future Hub is pretty ambitious. They want it to be a central resource that basically eliminates funding problems for athletes at every level. Individuals, coaches, clubs, organizations, even sporting events. It's a really big goal.
Wow, that's a lot to tackle. How do they plan on getting there?
So the roadmap has a few key phases: building a strong and active community, expanding the reach of the ecosystem, and then adding more advanced features over time. But they also talk a lot about forming partnerships.
Are they picky about who they partner with?
Absolutely. They're very clear about that. They only want to work with trusted projects that have a proven track record of doing things the right way. Being reliable, ethical, trustworthy. These partnerships will be chosen carefully, and they have to align with Sports Future's values.
Okay, so if someone's listening and they're interested, how can they get involved and stay updated?
They provide a couple of links in the material. They're going to be sharing regular updates about leadership community events and all that on their YouTube channel, so they encourage people to subscribe to stay informed.
Perfect. And what are those links again?
You can find their Telegram group at tit.me/sportsfuture, and their YouTube channel is at youtube.com/@apertum-DAO1.
Cool. So pretty easy to find. And they end with a pretty strong call to action, right?
Yeah, it's short and sweet. Together, let's build a future where every athlete can thrive.
I like it. All right, so to wrap up our deep dive today, what's the main takeaway our listeners should remember about Sports Future?
I think the core message is that Sports Future is all about creating a strong and decentralized ecosystem that supports athletes all over the world. And they're using some really interesting tech to do it. The Apertum, blockchain, DAO1, governance, even artificial intelligence. It's all part of this bigger movement happening within Apertum towards building a better future.
It's definitely fascinating to see how these decentralized technologies are being applied in new areas beyond just finance. It really makes you wonder how things could change. It makes you think, like, what if there was a way to fund athletes all over the world in a way that's completely fair and transparent, you know? Like, how much potential is there that we're just not tapping into because of the way things are done now? It's a big question.
Yeah, it is. It's something to think about for sure.
Well, this is a great conversation. Thanks for breaking this down with me.
My pleasure.
And to everyone listening, make sure to check out those links and stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of decentralized innovation.
Until next time.
See ya.